Hello everyone, and welcome to our presentation on academic research and literature by myself, Az, and Piper. Today we'll be answering questions like, what exactly makes a source academic, and how can I search effectively for academic research, especially in a world full of unreliable information? Basically, we're giving you the cheat codes for smarter uni research. By the end of this, you'll be evaluating sources like a pro and maybe even impressing your tutors in the process. Let's get started.
To begin, let's answer the question of what is an academic source? An academic source can be classified in three different ways. It can be classified as either conceptual, literature review, or empirical. Conceptual sources and literature reviews can be further classified as primary or secondary sources. Primary sources consist of original data from experimentation, or can even consist of first-hand accounts, while secondary sources consist of analyses, interpretations, or commentary on primary sources made by other researchers. They are sources that communicate concepts in particular styles. The style of academic sources usually includes a methodology, data, and use of citations. They are used for research in a specific field. They get shared amongst the field to discuss findings and to evaluate other research that has been done in that field. Usually they are published in journals or books, but sometimes a research encyclopedia can even be considered an academic source. Academic sources have to go through a process before publication, which includes reviewing the work, and they also need to pass an ethical review and meet publication standards. This means not having any conflict of interest, making sure the data has been collected ethically, and also making sure that there is no plagiarism in the work. Academic sources are usually peer-reviewed as well before publication. There is also an appeal process after the publication, where other researchers can get in contact with the author to ask questions. If these articles are found to be false, they can be retracted from their journals.
Now that we've established what an academic source is, we can answer, what type of academic sources would you draw on for an assessment? When researching for an assessment, students at university level need a variety of sources that can help them make the work credible, relevant, and well-informed. This includes textbooks, which enable students to understand key concepts as students are provided with foundational knowledge. Specialized academic books and edited collections are also valuable, as they provide in-depth analysis and diverse perspectives on specific topics, often contributed by experts in the field. Journal articles are another crucial source, as they present up-to-date, peer-reviewed research and are particularly important for engaging with current debates and evidence in the discipline. These articles are typically found through academic databases such as Education Research Complete, or ERIC, which are particularly useful for students studying education-related subjects. These databases allow students to search for articles by keywords and refine results to include only peer-reviewed content, ensuring high-quality academic relevance. Additionally, research reports and official publications from reputable organizations such as World Health Organization or national education departments can offer empirical data and policy context, which may be highly relevant depending on the nature of the assignment. A student should ensure that sources are recent, preferably from the last 5 to 10 years, unless referencing seminal work, and that they must meet the standards of academic rigor, including clear authorship, peer review, and publication by a reputable body. This criteria can help students develop well-supported, critical academic arguments.
Let's move on to how you search effectively. Effective searching involves applying strategies to locate the most accurate and relevant information within a given context. In an age of information overload, we must filter out the irrelevant information and focus on what's really important. Choosing the right place to search can depend on what kind of sources you may be provided with. For example, using Google is a helpful starting place that provides you with a wide range of sources. However, it is harder to find academic sources as well as reliable sources. Conversely, using Google Scholar is more useful for accessing academic resources, which can make the difference in effective searching. When searching effectively, identifying the keywords that are most relevant to the question will help ensure you are targeting the correct web pages. Since this can still produce millions of results, using quotation marks can narrow those results by focusing on the exact phrase instead of showing irrelevant results of each word separately. Additionally, incorporating Boolean operators can simplify your search strategy. This can include keywords AND, which will retrieve items that include two different concepts together, or which can be used to show that either concept can show up in the search results, and not, which can filter out specific words that you do not want to appear in the results. If the concept involves different endings, using the asterisk symbol can help find different forms of the same word. For example, typing teen asterisk can provide results for teenager, teens, or teenage. A common mistake made when searching is relying on unreliable sources, which can lead to using incorrect and misleading information, therefore not correctly fulfilling the purpose of searching. To judge whether a source is reliable, it is ideal to consider who the author is and if they are an expert in the field, as well as the information being accurate, supported by evidence and sources. It is important to identify the source's initial purpose as well as its relevance, so ensuring that it is factual knowledge and not just information that is intended to persuade. Lastly, the source should be up to date, especially if the topic is constantly evolving. Utilizing this criteria will ensure high-quality research.
And finally, we come to what criteria do you use to judge a good source? Not all academic material can be considered good sources. Thus, it is important to have a handy set of criteria to evaluate sources against. Just because a source is considered scholarly, it doesn't immediately equate it to being high quality. The search engine used to browse for resources itself can also vary in the quality and relevancy of content it indexes and displays. Some good practices to incorporate into one's criteria are as follows. Make sure that the source is no older than about 10 years old, unless the source is directly relevant to what you're researching. Make sure the sources are peer-reviewed so you know that they're fact-checked. Make sure the source itself comprehensively and correctly cites other sources, and that those other sources back up the source you're researching. And also make sure that the source has a reputable publisher. With all of these points in mind, finding high quality and relevant content will be much easier, and consequently make researching more efficient. Another thing to consider would be whether or not the source is scholarly or not to begin with, as well as if it would be appropriate to use a non-scholarly source. Scholarly sources, when of high quality, are almost always what one would want to research with, as they are made by experts qualified in their field. And, like mentioned before, usually have many references, tend to be less biased, and are overall simply intended for an academic audience. Because non-scholarly sources have the opposite qualities to those of scholarly ones, they are generally not good sources. However, an exception to this is when they are primary sources themselves, that is to say, when they are direct exhibits of a field of research. The way in which they can be good primary sources is when they directly relate to one's research. For example, a newspaper from 1938 might reveal the general attitude and atmosphere of a population prior to World War II when researching the cause of the war. When needing to use these academic sources, having a good understanding of the context of your research and therefore an understanding of what type of source you might need is a good criterion to consider for the specific exception given to non-scholarly sources.
With all of that in mind, hopefully next time you're staring down an assessment, you'll know where to look and what to avoid.
So if you're drowning in tabs and don't know what to trust, stop, breathe, and ask, is this academic, reliable, and relevant? And if all else fails, remember, when in doubt, leave it out. Thanks for listening and happy researching.